Hi, here we are, y'all. We made it. We made it to the third episode. So this is actually like right after I just launched the first episode for you guys. And I have just been like overwhelmed with the love that I've been receiving. I'm so grateful that you guys are encouraging me to keep doing this. You guys are excited for the content. Um, so I feel like I'm getting more and more excited and less nervous the further along this journey is going. And that's just like amazing. So today, my thinking from the heart piece came this morning, y'all, because of a conversation dealing with some family drama. And today we're going to talk about blind loyalty is out. And what I mean by that is that I feel like a lot of us with our family and friends, we are accustomed to just having a loyalty because we've been around them forever or we grew up together. With family, it's their blood, and we're taught that, blood is everything. And a lot of times that loyalty sometimes can run into a place where it can just put you into a lot of sticky situations, maintaining loyalty to people that you have outgrown, people that still have toxic mentalities, people that are just not on the same page in evolution as you are. And I'll say that I preach it to my mom, and I've been just advocating for myself as well. The older that my sons get, and the more that I continue to break generational curses and set a new tone and create a new narrative, it's just very important to not allow blind loyalty to stop you from those goals, because I know that we're taught to kind of enable our elders that don't have the enlightenment that we have, or just be the bigger person, which indeed, be the bigger person. Do not stoop to their levels. Don't become petty just because they're being petty. Don't engage in the toxicity at all, no. But knowing when to remove yourself and creating boundaries instead of just kind of dragging it along and making yourself miserable. So overall, that is just very much on my heart for the week, is we are not maintaining loyalty anymore just because of long-term friendships and long-term relationships. We are going to make sure the people around us align with our higher selves, like we always talk about. And we're going to make sure that everything just makes sense and everybody makes sense, because those unhealthy individuals can become a liability, like genuinely, the older you get and the more you progress. And it's just not worth losing your peace. It's not worth losing all your progress to maintain certain relationships. And so I'm really just preaching, we're just stopping that, okay? We are going to dead the relationships. We are going to remove them if we need to. And that's just how we're going to keep it, okay? It's sort of related to what I'm talking about today, because I feel the theme of today's episode is in the realm of choosing you. And I came up with that theme this week because I have been going through some major decision making and personal things that required me to lean into myself and to be serious about if I'm going to sacrifice myself and my happiness for the benefit of others, or maintaining my integrity, or just making others happy. And like we talked about previously, we're not doing that anymore. We are no longer going to be being inauthentic to ourselves. So making this major decision this week where I have to choose myself and I have to really ignore how it could potentially affect someone else negatively is a new thing for me, but it feels so empowering, because the reason that has been such a struggle for me is what I'm realizing more and more is that I dealt with self-abandonment really bad. And what is self-abandonment? It can look like so many different things. It is being that person that is so willing to go against your own needs, your own wants, not even be aware of them sometimes because of how indulged you are with caring for others and making other people happy. It is a positive trait turned very negative very quickly. And I can say with my experience in life that because I have a very high pain tolerance or stress tolerance, as well as I can be a little avoidant, I guess, to things that shake my like steady mood, I can tend to just abandon myself in doing what's best for me if it's going to keep peace sometimes, or if it's going to just prevent conflict at times. And what I've realized is that I've been abusing myself. I have not been honoring me. And that's just something that I feel like I would have continued to do until I got put in positions like now, where I am like put to the fire and I have to make that choice. So a little bit more of what self-abandonment can look like is simple things like anxiety and overthinking. When you are putting your energy and your thoughts into the future, it is literally abandoning your current present reality of what's going on. It's very hard to be present and have a calm nervous system when you are extremely anxious and overthinking. And that is also very abusing to yourself because your brain cannot determine the difference of what's real and what's not. All it feels is when you're having these emotions and you're ruminating and you're creating these scenarios, your body just feels the anxiety and the stress and the disarray that you're bringing on. And at the same time, it doesn't understand that these are not real situations. And then it's exhausting because you are creating these scenarios against yourself. So then you have to literally battle your own mind, and you see how that's just a recipe for disaster, right? As well, I'm looking at my notes like I'm shifting through here and figuring out which is the next thing I want to talk about. And I think martyrdom and being a martyr of your own mind has also been a very important theme for me recently. And what that means pretty much is sometimes just believing that suffering is your responsibility because of your obligation to your love for God, or your obligation to be a good person, or it makes you a loving person to sacrifice yourself. And sometimes it's a good thing to deal with the suffering and to put yourself through the lessons and to learn. But most times you're going to end up abandoning yourself, and you're going to end up doing things for others and completely disregarding yourself. I feel like the most important thing that I had to learn was that all that self-abandonment came to a head, because then there will be very small instances where, for example, I'm a mom, and there will be times where my children may have an emotional need that, because I've abandoned myself so much, I've put them in a position where I don't have capacity to fulfill their needs. And most parents do that on a day-to-day. They may get frustrated or overwhelmed by the responsibility of being emotionally responsible for your children and physically responsible for them. A lot of that is where I started to realize why I needed to create boundaries, because if I'm extending all this capacity to everyone else and I'm constantly being there for everyone else, but I don't even have enough capacity to wake up in the morning and go the extra mile for my children and, just do all the motherly things, which in my case, I make that time and I do create the boundaries so that I can be a great mom. But I'm speaking from the phases of my life where I didn't. And I'll be so exhausted. I couldn't show up for myself. Those mornings where you're half assing it and you're waking up and you are throwing your hair in a ponytail. You're not taking the time to do self-care. You're not making yourself presentable before you start your day. And you just jump straight into rushing to work and doing all the other things in life. Those are more examples of what that self-abandonment looks like every single day. And a very good piece of advice that someone gave me was when they told me, if you can go every single day and you can go to work and you can show up for everyone else and you can do daily tasks that involve you serving others, you really don't have an excuse as to why you're not showing up for yourself or why you're not depositing that same love into yourself. A lot of that comes from the healers finding a very sophisticated way to abandon themselves by overproducing or overserving or just putting all of their value into others to where they forget that that same nurture and care is deserved by self. So doing everything in love and having that unconditional love, caring for others more than yourself at a certain point in your life will no longer be something that you're praised for. It's going to be something that people will take advantage of you and kind of use you for. And I've always had a thing where you can't blame the takers for taking. So it's very important for the givers to just be a lot more discerning of who they're giving their time to, because it's really your responsibility. As I always say, I'm just genuinely one of those people that believe in accountability of self, because we cannot control how other people show up. And it's kind of like giving a child candy. They're going to keep taking it, even though it's unhealthy for them. You can tell them how bad it is. You can tell them what's not right. However, they're going to keep taking it, because why wouldn't they? A lot of people don't have discernment or genuine character to respect your boundaries. They're just going to look at the way that you abandon yourself, and they see that you actually have a lack of boundaries, And a lot of people will take advantage of that. And in a big world, in the dog eat dog world we live in, you can't really blame people for that. So you just have to, again, create boundaries. You have to slow down and assess everything around you, and the things that you are giving your energy to every day. It's very important to make sure that those things also deposit into you and that you are receiving the same love from others that you give consistently. Because at that point, then it is no longer self-abandonment. It's just a reciprocal relationship where you guys can grow and flourish, and you have a very reliable person that you can count on. So it's not to say we need to be selfish people and we need to go from being self-abandoning to self-serving and completely forget about those that we love. It's just about finding your balance and making sure that you genuinely are keeping a note of your own capacity. So some of the practical ways that I personally have been working on being very clear with myself about when I'm self-abandoning versus when I am acting from a place of kindness or just service is doing a daily assessment. Every morning that I'm waking up, I have found time to beautify myself. I have found time to give myself extra love in the morning before I communicate with anyone, even my children. And during that process, I'm being kind to myself. I'm having fun with picking out my outfit and matching my colors and doing my girly dainty things. And for men, you can do this as well because there's really no gender to taking care of yourself. So keeping your hygiene well and grooming yourself and just taking the extra steps when you're putting yourself together, even if it's a very simple outfit, you can still take that time and just be very neat and put together, and you will have much better days and be much more productive and ready to serve others when you do have that energy that is just bubbly and bright and you feel pretty and you feel handsome and you are feeling attractive. You know, of course they say when you feel better, you feel better when you look better or whatever they say. So another thing that I've been doing is being present and honoring how I feel in the moment. So how I've been using this tool is case to case when things come up. If I make plans like in the future, I am giving myself the space, if it's not a required obligation, to give myself the chance to change my mind. I may have committed to something that I no longer have capacity for. And if it's a space with someone that I respect and that I care about, I feel as though with us all being adults and with us all having our own lives, people should be able to be considerate. Now, it's not saying that you just have an excuse to just, again, abandon others because you're caring for yourself. So it's finding a balance, but also honoring, like I said, your own capacity, because there are days that you just don't have it, and that should be honored. Another way has been being very kind to myself. I have been giving myself a lot more compliments. I have been appreciating myself very thoroughly, even the smallest things. I have spent a lot less time thinking of things wrong and a lot more times growing on the things that are right. And so obviously I'm a self-accountable person and I'm always working on myself and I'm always growing. And as we know, that comes with that awareness where you tend to criticize yourself and be very hard on yourself and set unrealistic goals and dreams and expectations of yourself to be this perfect Patty and show up for everyone and always do everything right. And I've just been being a lot more kind and realistic. If I am having a late morning and I do need a few extra minutes of rest that I can spare, I'm allowing myself that without the shame, without the guilt. Because again, self-abandoning myself to serve others is still abuse. And it's to myself, which is the worst kind of abuse. So you don't get brownie points for how well you treat others if it's at the cost of abusing yourself. And I just really want that to be emphasized because that is really the theme of it. You have to look at it and realize when you are not taking care of yourself properly, whether it's your health, whether it's your wellness, whether it's your friendships, the relationships, your job space that you're going to every day, how you're handling your finances because you're biting off more than you can chew or trying to prove a lifestyle to others. You have to understand when those acts are self-abandoning and they are abusing yourself. So all that comes with assessment and all that comes with just observation. So I do recommend people to just sit back for a second, reflect on your day-to-day tasks and the things that you do every day, and then make a separate list of those things that you do for yourself, even if it's the tasks as far as your shower, your daily hygiene routine, or how often you're getting your haircut scheduled or getting a new hairstyle for yourself, or even if you're not spending a lot of money and you like to DIY your beauty stuff as a girl, just making sure that you're taking note of how often you're caring for you, because it's not a good thing or a flex anymore to walk around looking crazy because of the hustle, or to be looking kind of busted because you're in the grind. And that is an important thing for me to speak on while I'm talking about self-abandonment, is that the hustle culture will tend to emphasize that self-abandonment a lot, and sacrificing yourself, your well-being, your health in general for money is still on that track of self-abandonment and self-abuse. So I've been turning it back after I had my baby. I have not been working as hard. I've been enjoying the non-materialistic riches, and I have been just appreciating everything that I do for myself and that I can do, which is spending time in the gym and, like I said, beautifying myself every day, taking small time for myself to create time for whatever I want, instead of telling myself how much I don't have time to do things for myself because of X, Y, and Z. Because that's really backwards. If you can make time for everyone else, you can make time for you. And a lot of times when you sacrifice your health and your wellness for others, for money, for right now, long term, you're gonna pay for that and you're gonna deal with that. And I'm not wishing that on anyone. And that is part of the generational curse that I'm trying to break, is that self-abandonment, the taboo of addressing traumas and toxicities and not acknowledging the things that are good for us, and constantly just serving others and upholding false images and just abusive behavior for loyalty or for family or for the approval of others. It's just not worth it. It's really not. So I'll say, to close it all out with everything that I've talked about today, I just feel like choosing you is a non-negotiable right now. This is not the season that we can afford to play around with people or go backwards or get off task. And a lot of that comes when you are not in tune with yourself and you are not staying intentional about you, your care, and your well-being. So that is just a non-negotiable going into the new season. We're about to enter the spring. So seasonal depression will be coming off most of us, and we can get back to doing hobbies outdoors and spending time in nature and visiting our family and friends. Just getting vitamin D and just taking it slow and enjoying, like I said, the non-materialistic things in life. And so I'm praying that you guys genuinely start prioritizing yourselves as much as I have been, because I can see the difference. And I also ultimately have more capacity for everyone the more that I've given to myself. So I have not lost time for others. Actually, it was just an illusion to continue to abandon myself and allow myself to play small or not receive my own needs. And so that's why I'm encouraging you all to just check yourself about it, because it's just not worth the abuse anymore. I did not say this also in the previous episodes, but now that I have launched, we are going to start an advice line. There will be an email that you guys can write me and you guys can ask for advice. I will let you guys know now, I am not the toxic homegirl. I will not be giving you any low vibrational toxic advice about anything. So I would pray that you guys understand that going into this, that the advice that I give will be something to encourage your growth and to push you and to hold yourself accountable. With that being said, you all can send in your questions and send in your short stories to ask for advice. And I am looking forward to hearing those. I might read about 1 or 2 per episode, and I'm really excited to see how that goes. So I will make sure that the email is listed down in my description box. And I can't wait to see your stories, because next week we are going to answer probably 2 just to have an icebreaker with that. So send them in. Send them in. I would love to help you guys. So let's keep the questions about things that were talked about today. So things about self-abandonment, self-love. If you have questions on how to create boundaries or how to navigate relationships during trying to work on not self-abandoning, or if you just need help navigating relationships, as well as advice tips on how to show up for yourself better, even small practical tips, I'm willing to do that as well. So I'm excited to see you guys next week. Spring is right around the corner. It feels amazing this week. And I pray that you guys are taking advantage of the good weather and doing some small things this week to start preparing for spring, cleaning, freshening up your wardrobes, starting to plan some travels for the summer, and just getting us in the energy of moving forward into the warm, beautiful weather. And I'm looking forward to next week and starting that advice line. So you guys have a blessed, wonderful week, and I will be seeing you guys. Bye.